Protect the flock, we rally in the lion's den. Shield to shield, the storm is thundering. Unleash the roar, let the lions run towards the night until the battle's won.
All right, welcome back to the Lion's Den. Feeling refreshed. I just woke up. It's 7:30 at night on a Thursday. James and Kamitra and I went to Branch 79 in Seattle last night. Had a fantastic time. What an amazing group of people. I mean, an absolutely amazing group of people. So we got an opportunity to speak to them, and it was absolutely wonderful. And so I flew back last night, got in about 5:30 this morning, and put my uniform on, went in and delivered my route, came home, crashed, and now it's 7:30. And I'm like, oh man, I got to get in there and get an episode done. So what we're going to deal with, and we're talking about route protection. Now we got finished with the book finally. Thank God. That was misery. But again, a lot of people message saying that they enjoyed being on the route, being able to listen to it. So hey, if that's you, good. So but yeah, done with the book finally. What we're going to deal with tonight and next week's episode is pet. We're talking about route protection. Here's why. An individual sent me a recording the other day, and I've asked permission to play it, and I may play it on my other podcast. But what it is a station manager. They're in a meeting with district manager and some other lady who is an absolute tyrant. I mean, I hope that I'm able to play a clip for you, but if it's going to compromise this individual's contact, I'm not going to do it. And so, but if it doesn't, I want you to hear this tyrant of a woman. And the district managers, they're on a telecon dealing with the carriers leaving and why the carriers are still in the office. And this station manager, she gives a good answer. She's like, hey, look, I just go based off of the volume. You know, whatever the volume dictates, that's how long the carrier's staying there. And she gets absolutely berated because of that. I mean berated. And that's the issue that we're dealing with right now. Is that you have some managers that, hey, say, I understand, that we can't use PET, we can't use DOS. I'm going to go by volume. It's the upper echelon of postal management that's doing this, that's pushing them to violate the contract. And this lady gets absolutely berated because she said that. And the district manager specifically talks about PET. You've got PET, use PET, doing all these things. They can't use PET. And this district manager, surely he knows that. But he's not the one that's going to have the grievance filed against him. He doesn't care. He's going to tell them, hey, look, you go in there, you get in the carrier's butts, and you make sure they get on the street using PET, using DOS, whatever you got to do, get them out of the office. It kind of goes along the line with the hour office time, these metrics, right? And so, yeah, I'm hoping I'll be able to play that for you because you won't believe it. How this postmaster, station manager, gets absolutely berated. I don't know who this woman is. She is all over them and she's like, well, the carrier said, I don't care what the carrier says. I don't care. This carrier's on restrictions. I don't care if this carrier's on restrictions. They need to be out of the office. They don't need to be, and you those are the things that we're going to address, stuff like that. And so that's where it's coming from, the upper echelon of the Postal Service. And so, yeah. So, for that, tonight and then the next week, I'm going to deal with PET. Okay? We're going to talk about PET. I know that I've done a lot of talk about PET on the other podcast, but this one's a new one. And so we're going to start addressing route protection. And one of those things that we're going to deal with is PET. Okay? So, and these episodes on Wednesday, now this one's on Thursday, obviously, because I wasn't here Wednesday, but these episodes are going to kind of be like the ones that I initially started doing on the other podcast. They're not going to be long, okay? They're going to kind of be just point-driven. I'm not going to have a whole lot of talking beforehand. You're not going to have a salted peanuts on a lion's den. They're going to be very case-specific, contract-specific, verbiage-specific, okay? And that way they're not going to be very long, but I think you'll still get a lot from them. But we're going to deal with PET. today, and then next week, all right? We're going to deal with pet because that's what's happening. They're still using it. I've got proof through an audio that they're still using it, okay? So we'll do that. So let's talk about pet. Now, this is something that Chris Jackson put out, and this is dealing specifically with pet. And then I'm going to get into one arbitrator site. It's Arbitrator August. Does a very good job of talking about the harassment based off of these tools, okay? Like pet is a tool. DOAS is a tool. And so she talks about the hostile working environment that goes along with these tools, okay? And so I think that'll be very beneficial for us because we have a hostile working environment right now based solely off of pet and projections. You got the hour office time. They're basing that off of pet and DOAS, obviously, okay? So, and I'm just going to read it. It's not too long. It's about 17 pages, so it's less than what I was reading last week. And so we'll do this, and like I said, then we'll hit one site. Next week we'll get into some more sites and some more pet stuff, okay? We'll just start attacking pet, and then we'll get into DOAS, and then we'll get into what we do every morning, all right? Performance engagement tool, that's pet, is the most recent computerized data generating program in a long list of previous programs designed by the Postal Service for use by its supervisors to project the daily workload of letter carriers. The way PET works is it attempts to compare a letter carrier's past street performance and mail volumes with the current daily situation, and then uses that information to determine how long the program thinks it should take a letter carrier to perform his or her duties on that day. Now, if you've ever looked at PET, the street time is always the same. It doesn't matter. If you got 2 feet of mail or 200 feet of mail, the street value is always the same on PET. It gives you a street value. It's demonstrated performance is all PET is. It takes every single thing away from you in the office, so you're automatically behind the 8 ball. When you come in every day, it takes everything away from you. Your office time, 20 minutes, whatever it is now. And then your street is demonstrated performance. It will always be the same time if you look at PET, if you see PET. So like I said, you got 2 feet, 200 feet. PET is the same. It gives you the same street value, all right? The office projection generated by PET only considers how long it would take to case and pull down the day's volumes of letters and flats based on 18 pieces per minute for casing letters, 8 pieces per minute for casing flats, and 70 pieces per minute for pulling down letters and flats combined. The office time projection does not allow for fixed office time to perform such necessary daily functions as vehicle inspection, stand-up talks, retrieving mail from the throwback case, withdrawing mail, retrieving or signing for accountable mail, etc. If a station has an office break, in some locations, that time will be factored into the equation. But some locations do not consider office breaks when making the projection. The street time is also projected differently in certain locations. In some offices, supervisors will select one of 4 different street time options and apply that time to today's equation for PET to utilize in projecting the street time for that day. The 4 options are the average street time for the same day of the week for the previous 6 weeks. For example, if today is Monday, then one of the possible street time selections is the average street time recorded in DOAS for the previous 6 Mondays. If today is Tuesday, then the projection is the average street time recorded in DOAS for the previous 6 Tuesdays, etc. The average street time for all delivery days during the previous 6-week period. The most recent PS Form 3999 time. And the base street time. And that's generally the one you're going to get is the base street time. Because that's your demonstrated performance. It's going to give you, like I said, if your street time on one certain day is 5 hours and 20 minutes, if you look at PET, every single day will be 5 hours and 20 minutes, regardless of volume. In some parts of the country, the only street time options for supervisors to select are the PS Form 3999 time or the base street time. Like I said, that's generally what you're going to get. While USPS has instructed its supervisors to compare the mail volume for previous days to the current day when deciding which street time to select for PET, none of these projections take into account daily situations such as weather, parcel counts, traffic, construction, etc. Regardless of what option management chooses, the street time projected in PET starts when the incorrect office time ends, ensuring a misrepresentation of both office and street times. For example, if PET says a letter carrier only has 30 minutes of office time, when in fact he or she actually has 1 hour and 15 minutes of office time, then the faulty office projection will start the projected street time while the letter carrier is still in the office. And I'll say that again. For example, if PET says a letter carrier only has 30 minutes of office time, when in fact he or she actually has 1 hour and 15 minutes of office time, then the faulty office time projection will start the projected street time while the letter carrier is still in the office. Now here's what happens with district and whoever this lady is that was berating this station manager. What they see in their office down at district is what is a PET projection. These carry office in 37 minutes based off of PET. They will not accept anything less than that. No excuse from management will satisfy them. Because they're down there saying, all right, Belmead Station, all the carriers should have been out in 45 minutes. Well, here we have Corey, an hour and 10 minutes. Here we have this carrier, 57 minutes. Here's another carrier for an hour and 20 minutes. Why are you letting these carriers stay in the office so long when obviously their projection is 45 minutes? Well, their volume, we're using PET. And based off of PET, they should have been out of the office in 45 minutes. And that's how this game starts. We're always behind the 8 ball with PET. District and whoever else, when they look at these numbers, they're looking at PET numbers. Maybe they'll use kind of some combination of PET and DOIS. So there's no excuse that management can offer at the lower levels to satisfy district. And that's how we get a toxic working environment right there, because they will not consider anything less than what does PET say. Of course, this will project a return time for the letter carrier earlier than what he or she more than likely will be able to achieve. While this most recent attempt at projecting a letter carrier's daily workload may apply a different formula than used by any other management projection tool in the past, what hasn't changed are the responsibilities and reporting requirements outlined in Handbook M39, Management of Delivery Services, and Handbook M41, City Delivery Carriers' Duties and Responsibilities. What else hasn't changed is NALC's ability to challenge the use of any such projection as the determinant of a carrier's daily workload or its utilization as the basis for disciplinary actions. These issues have been settled many times in the past in national level settlements such as M1769. Make sure you got your pen and paper if you're dealing with this in your station. Grievance advice. Depending on how management uses PET on the workroom floor, it is possible that some relevant contractual provisions and/or settlements could be violated. As with any other grievance, a successful grievance challenging the misuse of PET should contain a proper issue statement, a detailed statement of the facts, a well-prepared series of contentions, the necessary documentation, and a proper remedy for the situation. Let's take a look at what a successful grievance challenging the misuse of such a projection tool may include. Provided below are some guidelines that can be used to help successfully grieve those instances where management has failed to adhere to our contract when using this program. Issue statements. A basic issue statement for grievances involving management's misuse of PET should be at a minimum read: did management violate the interpretive step settlement dated September 16, 2011, M1769, via Article 15 of the National Agreement, when they, and it's got a little space for your station, at the station and on this date, and if so, what should the remedy be? Of course, each issue statement should be tailored to the particular violation or violations being grieved. Keep in mind, it may be appropriate to add an additional violation or violations to the issue statement or statements. Some examples of additional violations can be found in the following facts and contentions. Facts. The following is a list of facts that could be used in a grievance. The list isn't meant to be exhaustive, as each situation is unique based on the circumstances. Following each fact is a starter list of what is needed to document the violation. 1. Interpretive Step Settlement M1769 specifically states Projections are not the sole determinant of a carrier's leaving or return time or daily workload, and is violated when the supervisor informs the letter carrier that the pet projection is absolute. Documentation. Carrier statements to include statements from others who may have heard the conversation between the letter carrier and supervisor. Pet projections. Base route information report. Employee everything report. 2. Interpretive step settlement M1769 specifically states, the resulting projections will not constitute the sole basis for corrective action, and is violated when a letter carrier is disciplined based on a failure to meet pet, office, or street projections. And that's one of the things they're talking about in this audio that I hope I can play just a little snippet for you, is what they're going to do with the carrier. What are you doing with these carriers? I want to know what you're going to do with them. These carriers that you say are doing the best that they can do. That's what she was saying. The carrier said he's going as fast as he can go. And they berated her for that because of pet. I'm telling you, these are the things that create the hostile working environment. Upper management never worries about it. That's one of the things that the CLC is going to do when we talk about these dogs of war. We're going to get them involved in the grievance process. Now, those managers, district managers that think that they're immune or sheltered from being brought into arbitration, we're going to do those things. We're going to get them actively involved. They think that they can give these mandates down to lower management and they're immune from any retribution. That's not the way it's going to be, okay? We're going to hold them accountable just like lower management, and that's a promise. But that's what's happening, and you'll see that if I'm able to play it. Hopefully I can. I'm going to quit talking about it just in case I can't. Documentation. Copy of a notice of discipline, PDI notes, grievance statement or statements to include statements from others who may have heard the conversation between the letter carrier and supervisor. PS Form 3996, pet projection, employee everything report. And the pet projection is beautiful in arbitration. I had an arbitration once dealing with pet. We won it. But when you give it to the arbitrator and you have the Formal A explain the pet tool and what it looks like, there is no arbitrator in the country that's going to go along with pet. And that's the reason management's been kind of crafty. And when you say, hey, this is based off of pet, well, it's kind of pet and DOS together. We understand pet takes a lot of the stuff away. But they're shielding upper management when they do that. Because upper management, and I've got audio proof, is demanding they use pet. They're demanding it. And so when your station manager, your supervisor on the workroom floor, when you address it, pet, well, we kind of use pet, kind of use DOS, it kind of is both things put together because we understand pet, is pet. Okay, so, and when you get the pet tool, you'll see what I'm talking about. Number 3, Article 41.3G reads, the employer will advise a carrier who has properly submitted a carrier auxiliary control form 3996 of the disposition of the request promptly after review of the circumstances at the time, and is violated when the supervisor denies a carrier's request for auxiliary assistance based on pet projections. And here's another thing. Dealing with this, the 3996, there are stations, people have reached out to me saying that management is denying 100% of the 3996s that are turned in because of these new auto pivot plans, these things dealing with pet. Now, these auto pivots are based solely off of pet projections. They're going to give an entire station hours and hours of undertime based off of pet that goes into these projections, and that's where the auto pivot comes into play. And so all the 3996s are getting denied. And so this is a real fight we're dealing with. I don't think that we're doing a very good job nationally of addressing these things head on, right? Getting the floor ready. But you've got an auto pivot plan right now that's going crazy across the country. We talked about that on the other podcast. And we may deal with that on this one as well, okay? For those that just want to listen to this one, because I'm choir boy Corey on this one, all right? Documentation, carrier statement or statements. Now, this is dealing with the denial of the 3996 based off of PET. To include statements from others who may have heard the conversation between the letter carrier and supervisor. PET projections, base route information report, employee everything report, PS Form 3996, weather report if applicable. That's the weather report. 4. Section 122.33 of Handbook M39, management of delivery services, is violated when the supervisor refuses to provide a PS Form 3996 based on PET projections. It reads in relevant part. 122.33. The employee, upon request, will be provided a Form 3996, carrier auxiliary control, after the supervisor has been verbally informed as to the reason for the request. The employee shall not be denied the form, and upon request, a duplicate of the completed form will be provided the employee. And so that's another thing we're dealing with these auto pivots. Management is pre-filling out the 3996, and we talked about that. I may do that on this podcast as well. That's a violation first of Article 1. That's our work. Okay? And also Section 122.33. We request a 3996. You don't give it to me filled out already. Okay? That's our job. Documentation for that. Carrier statement or statements to include statements from others who may have heard the conversation between the letter carrier and supervisor. 5. Section 115.4 of Handbook M39, management of delivery services, is violated when the supervisor's behavior when discussing the daily workload becomes disrespectful to the letter carrier. The relevant language reads, 115.4, maintain mutual respect atmosphere. Now this is low-hanging fruit, okay, when you're dealing with 115.4. This is the little brother of the joint statement. So a lot of times you'll get this rather than a joint statement. And I don't agree with that, but a lot of times the 115.4 is something we're going to have to settle for. Okay? And just some B teams are not going to give you the JSOV because you didn't get punched in the face. All right? So, yeah, but we can string enough 115.4s together to hold management accountable through the JSOV. All right? But 115.4, maintain mutual respect atmosphere. This is 115.4 of the M39. The national agreement sets out the basic rules and rights governing management and employees in their dealings with each other. But it is the frontline manager who controls management's attempt to maintain an atmosphere between employer and employee which ensures mutual respect for each other's rights and responsibilities. And another thing that makes me angry about this is when you have B teams. You got a steward that brings forward a grievance dealing with 115.4 of the M39 handbook. A manager or supervisor is berating a carrier on the workroom floor in front of their peers, either through a stand-up talk or when they go up to get a 3996 or something to that effect. And the supervisor or manager berates that employee on the floor. And the B team will issue what? Both parties are reminded of their responsibilities to maintain a mutual respect atmosphere. We already know that. It's already in management's handbook, M39. You don't need to tell the union of management's responsibility. And that's one of the things we'll deal with when we get in there is this language like that sells out the union and sells out the carrier. Because the steward is sold out because he's trying to help, and the carrier is sold out because you have a tyrant that has berated us on the workroom floor, and a DRT that says both parties are reminded. I don't need to be reminded. I filed the grievance. Why do I need to be reminded of it? I know the M39 handbook better than management. You don't need to remind me. My name is on the grievance. So, when we'll deal with that when we get in there too, this language from the DRT that helps management rather than the carrier. We're not going to do that any longer. Documentation, carrier statement or statements to include statements from others who may have heard the conversation between the letter carrier and supervisor should be descriptive of the particular behaviors. And any statement we're going to deal with management's toxic working environment, you need to be very descriptive. And I know that there are a lot of people who don't like to write curse words on a statement. But if curse words are stated, you've got to write it down as it was stated. Okay? You're not going to go to Hades because you wrote down what a manager said. All right? You don't have to go into confession because of you writing down what a manager said. If a manager said, hey, F you and this and that, write it down verbatim what you heard. Okay? Because a lot of times you get into hearing, this statement will leave out very descriptive words and this one will not. Okay? So we're limited as far as who we can use in arbitration. Just write down what was said. Okay? And we'll go to church together and ask for forgiveness. 6. Section 122.21.c. That's section 122.21.c of Handbook M39, Management of Delivery Service, is violated when management establishes a leaving schedule without taking into account necessary office time, such as fixed office time. The relevant contract language states 122.21, establishing leave schedule. C. Necessary office time. Time required to case the mail, withdraw, tray or strap out mail, obtain parcel post, and complete other required office duties. All right, now that's a huge one we're dealing with PET, because it takes every one of those things out. All of those things are taken out. That's the reason district loves to cram it down our throats, is that it takes all of those things. You're out there checking your vehicle, you're not getting credit for that. You're opening up your, you don't get credit for that. Going to the restroom, don't get credit for that. Getting your scanner, don't get credit for that. So any fixed office time it takes out. Now, of course, you had something come out where they lowered the fixed office time to 20 minutes, which that's for the other podcast. Documentation, carrier's statement or statements to include statements from others who may have heard the conversation between the letter carrier and supervisor. PET projections, base route information report. Base route information report, employee everything report. And here's some contentions for you. Just as important as it is to establish the documented facts and agreements, it is equally important to correlate those facts to the violations of the cited contractual provisions. The following is a list of some appropriate union contentions as they relate to the documented facts listed above. 1. The union contends management violated M1769 when supervisor so-and-so informed letter carrier so-and-so his or her request for 30 minutes of auxiliary assistance was denied because the PET projections, or PET projects, she will be back in 8 hours. The union contends, as evidenced in letter carrier so-and-so's statement, no other reason was given by management to deny the grievance request other than the PET projection. Thus, management failed to take into consideration any other reasons put forth by the grievant. Now, also, management's probably not going to say that on the 3996. Some have. They have sent me some saying PET or DOAS. Your request is denied based off of DOAS or PET. Some will do that, and that's easy. Some will say volume doesn't support the request. That's where you have to dig. The shopster's got to dig a little bit deeper, okay? Your volume doesn't support your request for an hour. The volume. Where are you getting that from? When you say that my volume does not support the request, what are you looking at? Well, we're looking at the volume. Okay, but the carrier stated the volume did support it. So what are you looking at to deny it? You got to get creative, okay, and got to press them a little bit, all right? 2. The union contends management violated M1769 when letter carrier so-and-so was issued a letter of warning for failing to complete his or her assignment in 8 hours and therefore failing to meet the expectation determined by PET projections. The union contends the letter of warning does not provide any additional reasons beyond the projection provided by PET for the discipline. The union also contends management did not meet the just cause principles outlined in Article 16 of the National Agreement. Specifically, Article 16.1, is the rule a reasonable rule? Prior to issuing the discipline, since the PET projection system does not consider any fixed office time when determining projections, and each letter carrier assignment has a specific amount of fixed office time associated with it to complete necessary office functions, management is knowingly disciplining an employee for failure to maintain a projected time not based on reasonable data, and that's a good contention. 3. The union contends management violated Article 41.3G of the National Agreement when they refused to provide letter carrier so-and-so with 30 minutes of auxiliary assistance, which was properly requested on a PS Form 3996, because PET projected she should return in 8 hours. The union further contends management did not take any other circumstances such as fixed office time or weather into consideration. This is evidenced by the grievance statement. Now, a lot of people tell me that they've turned in saying heat. They're putting heat on the 3996, and management is denying that. Now, that can go either way. You can either put in a 3996 based solely on your data, your volume. And then as you get going into your route and you start taking breaks as needed in the heat, you can call back and amend that 3996. You can say, hey, I know I requested 15 minutes based off of my volume. I'm going to need 30 because of the heat, because I'm taking these heat breaks as needed in the heat. That way, if they deny that, an easy win for us. We're going to start adding all kind of things, Article 14, 1860, stuff like that. But Carius, you got to stand up for yourself. You got to stand up for yourself. This is a fight we're in right now. The 3996 is always a fight. PET has been a fight. But right now, when management thinks they have the upper hand, they're doing these pivot plans and stuff like that, this auto pivot. This is a fight that we're in. And so you're in it. So just be in it, all right? Get yourself ready. And this is a fight we will win very easily, but you got to fight it, okay? We can't sit this one out. 4. The union contends management violated Section 122.33 of Handbook M39, management of delivery services, when on such and such, supervisor refused to provide letter carrier so-and-so with a properly requested PS Form 3996 to document 30 minutes of needed auxiliary assistance when they determined no assistance was needed based on a PET projection, and that is happening. 5. The union contends management violated Section 115.4 of the Handbook M39, management of delivery services, when supervisor so-and-so's behavior escalated to him or her raising his or her voice at the grievance on the workroom floor, therefore embarrassing letter carrier so-and-so. The union contends the letter carrier's statements reveal a situation where the frontline manager failed to maintain an atmosphere of mutual respect. And that's one of the things I was talking about earlier. We cannot continue to get back these DRT decisions saying that both parties are reminded. We know that. We know that. You've got to start protecting the city letter carrier at the DRT. You've got to start protecting the city letter carrier. Some of these business agents, I talked to a lot of carriers today, where the business agents have just mailed it in. They're not fighting anything, okay? And so, DRT, you've got to help the city letter carrier. You've got to protect us, all right? 6. The union contends management violated Section 122.21 of Handbook M39, management of delivery services, when they established the leaving schedule of letter carrier so-and-so based on PET projections. The union contends management failed to take into consideration necessary office time, including but not limited to withdrawal of mail, traying or strapping out mail, obtaining parcel post, and completing other required office duties which are documented in the FOT notated on the base route information report. The union contends letter carrier so-and-so confirmed in his or her statement that she, in fact, completed these tasks on this date. All right. Remedies. As with all grievances, this too must have a remedy request. Although certain resulting violations may require additional appropriate remedies, each grievance should include a request that management cease and desist using PET in a manner which violates the cited provisions of the National Agreement. In addition, each remedy request should include language which leaves the determination of an appropriate remedy to an arbitrator. Conclusion. Management's use of the performance engagement tool PET doesn't change the fact that it cannot be used as a determinant of a letter carrier's daily workload projections. Letter carriers are still responsible for estimating the amount of time it will take to complete their assigned duties, and management still has a responsibility to manage that workload within the confines of the handbook language, as well as previous national level settlements regarding the use of any such time projection tool. As stated earlier, the dispute over the value of management's daily workload projections, such as DOAS or PET, has been resolved previously in agreed upon national level settlements such as M1664, M1769. National level settlement M1664 was signed on July 30th, 2007, and national level settlement M1769 was signed on September 16th, 2011. These settlements very clearly state daily workload projections by management do not determine a carrier's leaving or return time or daily workload. Despite this fact, we still have too many offices where these settlements are ignored and workload projections create a breeding ground for disputes when a letter carrier fills out of PS Form 3996, carrier auxiliary control, requesting auxiliary assistance or approval to work overtime in order to complete their daily assignments. National Level Settlement M1664 states in relevant part, after reviewing this matter, the parties, that's both of us. When it says the parties, that's us and our enemy, the Postal Service. After reviewing this matter, the parties agree to resolve this dispute based on the following. The Delivery Operations Information System, or DOIS, is a management tool for estimating a carrier's daily workload. The use of DOIS does not change the letter carrier's reporting requirements outlined in Section 131.4 of Handbook M41, the supervisor's scheduling responsibilities outlined in Section 122 of Handbook M39, or the letter carrier's and supervisor's responsibilities contained in Section 28 of Handbook M41. DOIS projections are not the sole determinant of a carrier's leaving or return time or daily workload. As such, the projections cannot be used as the sole basis for corrective action. National Level Settlement M1769 states in relevant part, projections are not the sole determinant of a carrier's leaving or return time or daily workload. The use of any management-created system or tool that calculates a workload projection does not change the letter carrier's reporting requirements outlined in Section 131.4 of Handbook M41. The supervisor's scheduling responsibilities outlined in Section 122 of Handbook M39, or the letter carrier's and supervisor's responsibilities contained in Section 28 of Handbook M41. Now, when I was talking about earlier, when you turn in a 3996 and they disapprove it, saying that the volume does not support it, and you say, what are you looking at to base that? What are you looking at to base your decision to deny that based off of volume? What are you looking at? And they're going to say, well, it's not PET, it's kind of PET DOIS type-ish things. We're just kind of combining those right here. The use of any management-created system or tool that calculates a workload projection does not change the letter carrier's reporting requirements. All right? The use of any, and highlight and underline and italicize that any. All right? And that's M1769. Both entire agreements are printed at the end. The following is some advice you can give to the letter carriers you represent on how to handle situations if these national level settlements are ignored, as well as how a PS Form 3996 should be filled out. 1. Verbally inform your manager when you believe you can't complete your assignment in 8 hours. Sections 131.41 and 131.42 of Handbook M41, City Delivery Carriers' duties and responsibilities, require you to verbally inform your manager as follows. 131.41. It is your responsibility to verbally inform management when you are of the opinion that you will be unable to case all mail distributed to the route, perform other required duties, and leave on schedule, or when you will be unable to complete delivery of all mail. 131.42. Inform management of this well in advance of the scheduled leaving time and not later than the immediately following the final receipt of mail. Management will instruct you what to do. This language requires every letter carrier to tell the manager when you cannot carry all mail distributed to your case in 8 hours or within your normal schedule. Management is required to tell you what they want you to do. Follow the manager's instructions. If you still believe you will not be able to finish your route in 8 hours, proceed to Step 2 and request a PS Form 3996. 2. Request the PS Form 3996. Section 122.33 of Handbook M39, Management of Delivery Services, requires the manager to provide you with a 3996 when you request it. That section reads, 122.33, the employee, upon request, will be provided a Form 3996, carrier auxiliary control, after the supervisor has been verbally informed as to the reason for the request. The employee shall not be denied the form, and upon request, a duplicate of the completed form will be provided the employee. At no time does it ever state that the supervisor will bring you one without you requesting it. At no time. So on these auto pivots, when they fill it out themselves, violation of Article 1, and they bring it to you, violation of Article 1, right? Because we didn't request it. So when you're filling it out, you violated Article 1 because that's my job. When you brought it to me without me requesting it, that's a violation of Article 1 because I didn't request it. You're bringing it to me. That's my work to request that, okay? Explain that the instruction you're given by your supervisor does not change the fact that you cannot complete your assignment in 8 hours and request a PS Form 3996. No matter what your manager says to you, say the words, I am requesting a 3996 and explain the reasons for your request. If you're denied the form, immediately request to see your shop steward. If your request to see your shop steward is denied, then make sure another carrier hears you say the words. Don't scream the words at the top of your lungs. Just make sure someone other than you and your manager hears you. After you've verbally informed your manager that you don't believe you can finish your route in 8 hours, made him or her aware that their instruction has not changed your belief, and have requested and been provided a 3996, proceed to Section 3 for guidance on filling out the 3996. 3. Fill out the form completely. Write down where and at approximately what time you plan to take your lunch. Also make sure you take your lunch when and where you said that to the extent you can. This way you can avoid any misunderstandings on where you were and what you're doing later. In the reason for the request box, you must write down why you believe you cannot complete your assignment in 8 hours. If your belief is related to your mail volume or type of mail you should write comments such as full set of advos, half set of marriage mail, utility bills, full set of coupons, circulars in the DPS, etc. Your reason could also be related to your street duties. Some situations that may affect your ability to complete your assignment within 8 hours could be known road constructions, weather-related issues, excessive accountable mail, etc. Comments such as heavy volume or route overburden aren't enough in this section. You should fully explain your situation. So, if you turn it in, you say heat, and they deny that, saying that's not an excuse. Nobody knows the city letter carrier better than the city letter carrier, especially somebody sitting in the office in the air conditioning. If it's going to be 90 degrees, and I've delivered out there in that for years and years and years, even if I'm a CCA, I know that it's hot. And the one thing I'm going to do to protect myself is take breaks as needed in the heat. So we can argue that when we file a grievance and they've denied based solely on heat, we can grieve that. And we'll argue that we take breaks as needed in the heat and let somebody else educate us on that. But I think that you can put heat on there. Some say you can't. I see no issue with it. Because like me, I know that I'm going to be taking several breaks as needed in the heat. Okay? Often there are other circumstances present which may add to or be the reason why you will need overtime or auxiliary assistance on a given day. Here are some examples. Collating mail, 15 certified letters, late leaving, stand-up safety talks, excessive DPS mail, excessive parcels, not feeling well, unfamiliar with route, weather, described conditions. Weather, described conditions. The need to deviate for priority mail express, new deliveries, growth, road construction, etc. You get the idea. And again, nobody knows you better than you, and nobody knows your route better than you. Always list the circumstances that are present which will prevent you from finishing your assignment in 8 hours on PS Form 3996 as explained above. Statements by your supervisor such as, this is your demonstrated performance, which is exactly what PET does, or you are not making standards, are not legitimate, and do not change your situation. Most importantly, don't let these comments get under your skin and stop you from requesting the assistance you need. When they say you're not making standard, they have to perform an efficiency count. They cannot eyeball that. They cannot say, hey, you got 4 feet of flats over there. You're definitely not making standard. They cannot make that determination without giving you an efficiency count. Remember that. They cannot make a determination just by a linear measurement. They have to do a piece count, an efficiency count. All right? Remember that. The computer doesn't take in any other possible circumstances listed above into consideration. If you don't write these things down, then you leave the door open for management to try and accuse you of working unauthorized overtime and possibly issue discipline over the issue. If you do write these things down, then you give your supervisor an opportunity to make a more informed judgment regarding your request. Any supervisor who is interested in treating you fairly will take these things into consideration prior to making decisions on how much time to approve for you. If your supervisor is not interested in treating you fairly, then you have to look at defending yourself. Recording the best information you can on your 3996 will give your shop steward a better chance of successfully defending you should the need arise later. Now, even if you, through this recording that I got, even if your supervisor does want to work with you, district will not let them. And if I can play this, you'll see it. The fact that this individual said, hey, I'm going based off the mail volume, and just gets completely destroyed by the two individuals, especially this one lady, complete buffoon, just gets shredded. So even if you have a supervisor that's trying to work with you, I'm going by their mail volume, by what they put down on 3996. No, you will go by PET. We will not accept anything else. You go by PET. So you have the situation now where even if they're wanting to work with us, you have district managers that are pushing PET. They want this office time. You got this metric, our office time. That's based off of PET and things. 4, keep your cool. Don't lose your cool. This whole process is sometimes very insulting, but you will do nothing to help yourself by getting excited or becoming angry and possibly losing your temper. If your manager denies your request for overtime or assistance, state to him or her that you will do your best. Then politely ask what they want you to do in the event that all the mail isn't delivered by the time they want you back. Typically, their answer will be something like, I just told you what I want you to do, or deliver all the mail and be back in 8 hours. Your manager had just put the ball back in your court and placed you in a situation where you can't honor his or her instructions. 5, don't argue. There is no sense in arguing with your manager at this point. It will not help your cause to stand there and argue because your manager has already made up their mind. The only thing you will accomplish by arguing with your manager at this point is to become frustrated and angry. The smartest thing you can do at this point is just say, okay, I'll do my best, and ask for a copy of your 3996. As stated earlier, Section 122.33 of Handbook M39, Management of Delivery Services, requires managers to provide you with a copy if you request it. Again, this states 122.33. The employee, upon request, will be provided a Form 3996 Carrier Auxiliary Control after the supervisor has been verbally informed as to the reason for the request. The employee shall not be denied the form, and upon request, a duplicate of the completed form will be provided the employee. At this point, finish your office work and go to the street. Do the best that you can. Take your breaks where you're supposed to, and take your lunch when and where you're listed it on the 3996 you filled out. And again, take breaks as needed in the seat. 6, don't make any decisions. This is the point where many letter carriers make a mistake by forgetting about how our current system works. Letter carriers get paid to deliver mail. Managers get paid to make decisions. You should do everything you can to put the ball back in the manager's court. Many times letter carriers make the decision to either bring some mail back or deliver all the mail and get back late. After all, these seem to be the only available options. The trick is to force the manager to make the choice. After all, that's their job, isn't it? Best way to handle this situation is to call your supervisor per local instructions. If you have no local instructions, try calling at least an hour and a half to 2 hours before the time you're scheduled. Approved on a PS Form 3996 to be back. Let your supervisor know where you are and how long you think it will take you to finish. Ask him or her whether they want you to bring the mail back or to finish the route. If your supervisor isn't available, ask for the station manager or postmaster and talk to them about it. Make a note of who you talked to, what time it was, and what your instructions were. If no manager is there, leave a message with the person who answers the phone and be sure you know who you are talking to. Make sure they understand when you are scheduled to be back and how long it will take you to complete your assignment. Once again, Make a note of who you talked to and what time it was. Then just keep working until someone tells you otherwise, or it's time for you to go back to the office to make it back in the time that was approved on the PS Form 3996, whichever comes first. If the line is busy or no one answers, you should keep trying to get through. If you use your cell phone, you'll have a record of your calls. Just don't wait until it's time for you to get back to make the call. Also, be sure to make a note of how much time you spent calling. Trying to give your supervisor or manager a reasonable amount of time to decide to send you some help or authorize you to finish your route. Follow whatever instructions your supervisor or manager gives you. Any disputes that arise from the instructions given to you will have to wait. If the supervisor or manager refuses to tell you what to do with the rest of the mail, or if you can't finish your assigned duties in the amount of time initially specified by your supervisor, you should return to the office in the allotted time and ask for further instructions. Follow whatever instructions your supervisor or manager gives you. Note: never return mail to the office and leave it without getting instructions on what to do with the mail from the manager. Make a note of what instructions you were given and what time it was. If you have local instructions like don't call back to the office and don't bring mail back, you should request to see your shop steward and ask him or her to file a grievance. The same is true when your supervisor refuses to give you instructions when you call back in the afternoon. If you want a successful grievance filed, you have to write a detailed statement. This should be easy if you took notes as advised above. 7. Carrying loops, splits, kickoffs, relays, handoffs, strips, pushes, bumps, etc. If you're instructed to carry part of another route, whether on projected undertime or for overtime, a PS Form 3996 should be provided to you indicating this additional work. Make sure you fill out the bottom of the PS Form 3996 showing both your travel and delivery times for whatever loop, split, kick, relay, handoff, trip, push, bump you're carrying. If you don't believe you can complete the work in the amount of time authorized, explain to the supervisor why this is true. For example, let's say you have a light day and your supervisor tells you that you will be assigned an hour of work off your assignment to make up for your downtime. Let's also say you believe you have 7.5 hours of work on your own route after considering the time it will take you to deliver your route, get back, and clean up. In this example, you believe the additional 1 hour of work that your supervisor wants to assign you will cause you to be a half hour late. Make sure to explain this clearly to the supervisor. Then let's say the supervisor agrees that maybe you have a point and assigns you a 30-minute pivot, but doesn't take into consideration the necessary travel time for the pivot or other factors. This should also be explained to the supervisor, as these other factors will also cause you to be late. If you can't get your supervisor to agree with you in this situation, then say the words and handle the situation in the same manner as above. Note: if you are still in the office when you realize it, you should always notify management verbally and with a PS Form 3996 whenever you believe additional work assigned to you because of projected downtime will cause you to work overtime. If possible, make a copy or request a copy of the PS Form 3996 that you just submitted to management. If your supervisor later asks you again to explain why you needed the time, you'll have your copy of the PS Form 3996 and your notes to refer to. Sometimes supervisors are recording the extra time used over what was approved in the morning as unauthorized overtime on PS Form 1017B. This can be true whether or not they talk to you about it. If you think this is true in your case, request to see your shop steward so he or she can investigate the matter. If the extra time you worked after being instructed to finish the route is being recorded as unauthorized overtime, then your steward should file a grievance on the improper use of the PS Form 1017B. Here's the short version. Verbally inform your manager that you can't make it in 8 hours. 2. Follow your manager's instructions. 3. If you still can't make it in 8 hours, request a PS Form 3996 from the supervisor and explain the reason why you need one. 4. Fill out the form completely and list the types of mail you have, as well as any other circumstances that are present. 5. Keep your cool and request a copy of your 3996. 6. Don't argue with the supervisor or manager. 7. Don't make decisions. That's what your supervisor or manager gets paid to do. Call back to the office for further instructions and follow the instructions you are given. 8. Handle requests for overtime or auxiliary assistance due to delivering on another route in the same manner. Following these procedures makes it much easier to defend you in the event you are disciplined. You also make it possible for the union to pursue forcing management to stop recording this time as unauthorized in the first place, thereby avoiding a discipline situation altogether. M1664 or M1769 are continually violated. See your shop steward so he or she can investigate. PS Form 1571, Undelivered Mail Report. PS Form 1571 is the form that letter carriers use to record undelivered or curtailed mail. This form is used anytime all mail distributed to your case for the day is not cased and delivered. Section 131.44, 131.45, and 131.46 of Handbook M41, City Delivery Carriers' Duties and Responsibilities, describe what we are supposed to do as follows. 131.44, report on Form 1571 all mail undelivered, including all mail distributed to the route but not cased and taken out for delivery. Estimate the number of pieces of mail. 131.45, do not curtail or eliminate any scheduled delivery or collection trip unless authorized by the manager, in which case you must record all facts on the Form 1571. Now here's another thing that we're dealing with. A lot of stations are being told to cut mail and just deliver packages and bring that mail back. Then the manager's refusing to give them the 1571. You've got to file a grievance and write down on a piece of paper exactly what happened, right? Because manager will sell you out. I saw a letter of warning the other day, and the DRT agreed as time served. That meant that it was a valid discipline. It was issued as time served, which means that the discipline was valid. And the situation was the manager instructed the carriers to cut mail, bring the mail back at a certain time, but just deliver packages. That's what carrier does. And the manager rings them up for it. It's another way of intimidation. You need to finish that route when I tell you to. You need to finish that route when I tell you to. They cut that mail off at 5 o'clock. You know we're going to cut mail at 5 o'clock, deliver packages, and you still got mail to deliver. Gave them a letter of warning. And the DRT agreed time served. Terrible decision. Terrible decision. Because that meant that the discipline was valid in the first place. Can never be valid if they're given instructions to bring mail back. I don't care what happens. That's terrible. 131.46, before you leave the office, enter on Form 1571 the mail curtailed. When you return, add any mail which was not delivered and which was returned to the office. Follow any special local procedures set up to identify errors and corrective actions for mail returning because it was out of sequence. Chapter 4, Office Time Return of Handbook M41, City Delivery Carriers' Duties and Responsibilities. Section 442, completing Form 1571, states the following. 442.1, after return from trip, obtain Form 1571, undelivered mail report, see Exhibit 442 from Unit Manager. 442.2, add any mail which was not delivered but was returned to the office. Again, this is Chapter 4 of the Handbook M41. 442.2, add any mail which was not delivered but was returned to the office. There should be thousands of these being filled out right now, with management telling us to cut mail at a specific time and just deliver packages. 442.3, sign the form and give it to a unit manager. Never curtail mail unless instructed to do so by a manager. Section 111.2J of Handbook M39, Management of Delivery Services, describes what the supervisor is supposed to do as follows. Issue Form 1571 when the carrier is instructed to curtail mail, indicating action thereon. Upon request, a duplicate of the completed form will be provided the carrier. It does not say may be provided the carrier. It says will be provided the carrier. If I request a duplicate, it will be provided. That's not discretionary, okay? Article 41, Section 3G of the National Agreement also requires managers to provide you with copies of both the 3996 and 1571. 41.3G. The employer will advise a carrier who has properly submitted a carrier auxiliary control form 3996 of the disposition of the request promptly after review of the circumstances at the time. Upon request, a duplicate copy of the completed Form 3996 and Form 1571 report of undelivered mail, etc., will be provided the carrier. It doesn't say may be provided the carrier or should be provided the carrier. It says will be provided. You should always request a copy of the completed Form 3996 and 1571 and keep these copies for your records. If management refuses to provide you with copies of these requested forms, then ask to see your steward. And then it's got the M1769 and the M1664, okay? And so that's it for that. I'm not going to get into that site. It's already an hour, and I don't want these episodes to be too long. So I'll do these sites next week. We'll go over those. They're very beneficial to us about what an arbitrator considers, okay? And they're very good sites for us. They'll be good for your case files, advocates. They'll be good for you because it's rampant right now. I got that audio where district manager is telling people, you will use PET. You will not take the carrier's account into consideration, mail volume into consideration. You will use PET. And then this other lady just acting like a buffoon, going at these people, man. Well, the carrier has a disability. I don't care if the carrier has a disability. They need to get out. It's about the volume. It's not about the volume. You can't do your job. Do we need to come in and do your job for you? Crazy. But anyway, so that's the lion's den for today. All right, we're talking about PET. Got into a little bit of 3996 and 1571, which is obviously going to go along with what's going on right now. We'll keep doing these things, getting ourselves ready for the 6-day counts that are coming up in the fall. Taking crazy amount of routes out right now. We know they're going to do that because I believe they're having this joint process coming January, so they're going to come in and get whatever they can, as illegal as it is. They're going to come in and get whatever they can and make us fight to put them back. All right, so we'll get ourselves ready. Okay? Hey, I love you. I love you, City Letter Carriers. I love you, Light Blue. All right, we're going to win this thing. I promise you. Better days are coming. We're going to win this thing. Just hang on with me. Hang on. All right? And when it comes time, we'll be ready because we're going to attack the workroom floor like never before, like nothing anybody has ever seen. And that's a promise from me to you. Things have already been set in motion for when we take over. It's coming, and you're going to love it. All right? I love you, Light Blue. I'll talk to y'all Sunday on the other podcast. All right? And next week, I won't be here next Wednesday. I'll be in Portland. I'll do one Thursday night again, okay? And we'll get over these sites and some more PET, all right? Because that's what we're dealing with, all right? So I'll talk to y'all next week. Well, I'll talk to you Sunday, all right? I love you. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.